Alice, thank you. One of Perth's most notorious sex offenders has committed yet another crime while free on strict conditions. Patrick Come Again was monitored 24/7 but somehow managed to use methamphetamine. Psychiatrists say he's still a danger to the community.
This is the fourth time Patrick Come Again has breached his release conditions since he danced his way to freedom last year. This time caught using methamphetamine. Experts say it's particularly serious because drugs were part of the serial rapist's shocking past. Today at a Supreme Court hearing, the 41-year-old admitted to substance abuse after failing a urine test. He also failed to report to a supervisor. Now a judge will decide whether Come Again should be jailed indefinitely or given another chance and released back into the community. Forensic psychiatrist Dr Peter Winowen said Come Again is still a danger and the risk he poses hasn't changed. If anything, it's slightly higher. When asked if he believed his risk was manageable in the community, he said, "I don't believe so." The court heard when Come Again was released last year, he was highly motivated and substance-free, but under stress he turns to drugs, which has triggered his offending in the past. Come Again violently attacked two of his victims just a month after getting out of jail in 1999. One of his other victims was a 9-year-old girl. Since he was released, Come Again has had to wear a tracking device and abide by 43 strict conditions. But he's previously breached his release order twice by coming into contact with children. Emma Sheridan, 9 News.
Dangerous steel traps have been set and left in public spaces in at least 2 Perth suburbs. The traps were found on separate sides of the city. They've already killed one cat and left another badly injured.
A 6-year-old tabby on the mend after surgery to fix his paw. It was crushed in this steel jaw trap. He was found hiding under a car in Mandurah, the trap still attached to his paw.
They can actually cut straight through bone, so depending on what part of the animal actually gets caught in the trap, the injuries can be very, very extensive and very concerning.
Nicknamed Django by RSPCA staff, his injuries were so severe the tendon was torn away from the bone. Django is the second cat in a week to fall victim to a steel jaw trap. They were once used on foxes and rabbits but are now illegal. The first cat, a stray, was found in Wattle Grove. His injuries so severe he had to be put down.
It's a particularly disturbing and alarming incident. We'll be doing all we can to follow up these matters.
It's unknown whether the cases are linked. The RSPCA says what's most alarming is that in one of the cases, the trap was found on an urban street, posing a serious threat to the public. Local councils and the RSPCA now asking people to be on alert.
Traps of this nature are very, very dangerous. It just so happens that 2 cats were caught in these traps. That doesn't mean children, other animals may not become victims.
Anyone convicted of causing injury to a cat with a steel-jawed trap could face up to 5 years in jail or a $50,000 fine. Django's owner still hasn't been found. If you recognise him, call the RSPCA. Tegan Sapwell, 9 News.
The Police Commissioner's son has pleaded guilty to 3 violent offences against a woman. Russell OCallahan admitted to 3 charges of indecent assault, threats to kill and assault causing bodily harm via video link from Casuarina Prison. The court heard the 27-year-old remove the woman's underwear and threatened to rape her. 3 other charges, including rape, were dropped. He'll be sentenced in January.
More chilling details have emerged about the deaths of Carly Pearce-Stevenson and her 2-year-old daughter. Police say little Candelise was kept alive after her mum was killed. It came as a man faced court charged with murder.
Daniel James Holden, family man and now accused murderer. The 41-year-old, who has gone by at least 2 other names, faced court this morning from Cessnock Jail in New South Wales, charged with the cold case killing of 20-year-old Carly Pearce-Stevenson and dumping her body in Belangolo Forest.
In your view, was he surprised by the charge?
I can't make any comment as to the discussions between he and me.
No charges have been laid over the murder of Carly's daughter, Candelise.
We believe that Candelise was murdered at some point after Carly but we're trying to establish the exact time.
It's understood police used Holden's phone records to place him in Belangolo between the 14th and 15th of December 2008, when it's alleged Carly was murdered.
She sustained certain injuries to her body, but I cannot go any further into those injuries as the investigations are ongoing.
9 News can reveal Holden has a strong connection to a house in Davern Park. His former partner, Hazel Passmore, lives there. She's confined to a wheelchair and spoke with one of Adelaide's most prominent defence lawyers today in a park near her home. Ms Passmore lost a leg after a crash on the Stewart Highway 7 years ago. Holden was the driver and 2 of their 3 children were killed. 3 months later, Holden would allegedly murder Carly Pearce-Stevenson. Holden, who went by the name Daniel Marshall, pleaded guilty to his children's deaths and to driving under the influence of drugs and was sentenced to a good behaviour bond. Police allege that after Holden committed the murder, a female linked to him stole Carly's identity and took cash from her bank accounts, the suspect even impersonating her.
A female in a wheelchair, accompanied by a male person, attended the Australian Central Credit Union on Elizabeth to update banking records and engage in conversations with the bank.
Ben Avery, 9 News.
Australia's most wanted father and son fugitives, Gino and Mark Stocco, have officially been charged with murder. It's alleged the pair shot a farm caretaker so they could use the property as a hideout.
It took 8 years to put them behind bars. It took less than 2 minutes for their first court appearance. In fact, neither Gino nor Mark Stocco faced Dubbo Court, instead remaining in their cells as their lawyers did the talking.
Have they complained at all about how they were treated?
Sorry, was it? I'm not going to say anything about it.
It was a far cry from the drama of their arrest at a Dunedoo property yesterday.
There was no way, once we knew they were there, that they were going to leave that property.
2 of Australia's most wanted cornered in custody. On the same property, police later found the body of 68-year-old Rosario Chimone.
What I can say is he was known to police, but we just need to be mindful of the family and the grieving they're going through.
Today, Mr Chimone's family had nothing to say. Overnight, detectives laid a litany of charges against the father and son fugitives. They include Mr Chimone's murder, shooting at police to avoid arrest and shooting at police with intent to murder. Now remanded in custody, authorities were taking no chances with the Stoccos. The high-risk transport unit from Goulburn Jail brought in to escort them to Wellington Prison.
That's normal protocol for corrective services where people are charged with murder.
They'll now be assessed and probably transferred to Goulburn's Supermax Jail. Back in Dunedoo, the high-profile arrests has locals excited.
It's certainly been a big surprise.
For some, there was a brush with infamy at the supermarket.
He brought a hot scrubber that I can remember and some dishcloths.
Melissa Craggs was sure it was Mark Stocco.
He was very agitated.
But her workmates told her she was crazy. They talked her out of calling police. In Dubbo, Simon Boda, 9 News.
The Immigration Minister has angrily hit back at Amnesty International over claims Australian officials paid people smugglers to turn back asylum seekers. The human rights organisation says it amounts to criminal activity and wants a royal commission.
It's this video that Amnesty International says helps prove asylum seekers were turned back. Part of an operation in which it alleges officials paid people smugglers $32,000 to return them to Indonesia.
The crew told me that they received this money, and at least one asylum seeker said he was an eyewitness to the handover of this money.
In a damning report called by hook or by crook, Amnesty calls Operation Sovereign Borders a lawless venture and accuses Australia of transnational crimes.
We are quite satisfied that our agencies are operating within the law, that's to say they're operating legally.
They try and attack the Border Force staff and the naval staff, and I think it's a disgrace.
Amnesty International's demanding a royal commission and separate investigation into claims of a second incident.
The officials involved could be held complicit either as directing that operation or as being accomplices in that operation.
When the allegations were first raised, the government said it didn't happen, then changed its response to, "We don't comment about on-water operations."
The reports that on the
oceans, that there's tens of thousands of dollars being handled to people smugglers is repugnant, and certainly we wouldn't be doing that at sea.
The Immigration Minister says it won't force a change in policy.
We're not going to be bullied. We are not going to water down our policy when it comes to boats. We're just not going to return to those crazy days.
Lane Calcutt, 9 News.
There's another health milestone tonight for the little boy hit by a ute on the weekend. 3-year-old Noah has been moved out of intensive care. Josh Urger, he's also said his first word.
Tim, the 3-year-old hasn't been able to speak properly, but has said the word mum. His family say he's been heavily sedated, but his condition has improved dramatically. The swelling around his face has reduced significantly. He can now open both of his eyes. He no longer needs oxygen, and soon he'll be able to feed himself. And although he has tried to sit up, his neck isn't quite strong enough at the moment. The 3-year-old suffered severe head injuries on Saturday. He was accidentally hit by a ute.
OK, we seem to have lost audio there with Josh. Joondalup.
There next.
A woman's been threatened and robbed by an intruder in her Victoria Park home. But Lauren Delbonnay believes the attack could have been so much worse if her dog Trixie hadn't fought back.
Come on, Trixie, come on. Lauren Delbonnay was letting her dog Trixie out the backyard about 1:30 yesterday morning when a man was crouched down waiting for her.
So I looked over towards where she was looking, and there was a man just right there crouched behind me, that wall there.
If it wasn't for Trixie, Lauren says she wouldn't have known he was there. Lauren says he picked up a brick and threatened to throw it at her before kicking Trixie.
I've tried to grab the landline, I'm still screaming, and I've looked back and he's run behind me and he's just grabbed my handbag and come back out here.
He's then stolen her car that was parked out the front of her Willis Street home in East Victoria Park. It's a Subaru Outback, registration 1EMY806.
Yeah, it was terrifying, it was scary, but luckily all my neighbours came out and helped me straight away, so that was really awesome.
Lauren Delbonnay's neighbour is a former Olympic hockey player. He heard her screams for help. He's come running out trying to stop the car, chasing it down towards Berwick Street. Crimes like these are on the rise. Last month, 1,819 burglaries were committed in Perth, up 11%, and there were 569 cars stolen, 38 more than September last year. Lauren Delbonnay got a good look at her attacker. She says he was 25 to 35 years old, had dark hair, dark eyes, dark skin, and was clean shaven. Anyone with information should call police.
I feel very anxious, I don't feel safe. I feel angry that someone has come into my house and done this to me. I can't get his face out of my head.
Scott Cunningham, 9 News.